The written fragments, known together as the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, have a mysterious history. And because of when and where it was discovered in 1896, it cannot be fully authenticated as being written by Mary Magdalene, Jesus' friend and follower in the first century. It is also, therefore, cannot be proven that Jesus spoke the words to her in private that she claims. The Gospel was found in 1896 by a German scholar, Dr. Karl Reinhardt, traveling in Cairo. Two other fragments were later unearthed in archaeological excavations in northern Egypt, written in Greek. The fragments were brought together and fully translated 59 years later in 1955, with many missing pages. Pages 1 through 6 and 11 through 14, which are chapters 1 through 4 and portions of chapters 5 through 8. For these various reasons, then, the revelations about the personal relationship between Jesus and Mary and what he may have said to her 2,000 years ago cannot be proven with certainty. However, it may be we of J&S Biblical Productions now present to you the translation of the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, of events Mary said had taken place in Jesus' final years for your study and contemplation. Pages 1 through 6, containing chapters 1 through 3, unfortunately could not be recovered. The text and video begins on page 7, chapter 4.
Good afternoon. This is Sarah Honeydew with J&S Biblical Productions 35 Christian Era. We're at an undisclosed location outside of Jerusalem. Since the Christian followers of Jesus have been sought after and persecuted for being subversive to the Roman Empire, I'm here in a cave with one of Jesus' friends, the very lovely Mary Magdalene. She has agreed to talk to us about her personal conversations with Jesus, as well as with her brothers, the closest followers of Jesus himself. Good afternoon, Mary Magdalene.
Good afternoon, Sarah. Thank you for being here in my cave, my home now. Can I offer you a beverage?
Oh, yes, thank you. Mary, we are eager to find out what were some of the interesting thoughts Jesus told you in his last days on earth.
Well, we talked a lot about the nature of the universe. His disciples really wanted to know, will matter be destroyed or not?
All nature, all things formed, and all creatures exist in and with one another, and they will be dissolved again into their own elements. This is because the nature of matter is to return to its original elements. If you have an ear to hear, listen to this.
Very interesting. And what did his disciples want to know?
Well, Peter said to him, since you have explained all things to us, tell us this also. What sin did the world commit?
And how did Jesus respond?
There is no sin. Each person makes their own sin when they do things like adultery. That is why the good has come to be among you. He came to restore nature to its own root, to its basic root. You become sick and die because you have no access to him who can heal you. If you have any sense, you must understand this. The material world produced a great passion. This was contrary to the natural balance. The entire cosmos was disturbed by it. That is why I say to you, be encouraged. And if you are discouraged, be encouraged by when you see the different forms from nature that has taken. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. When the Blessed One has said this, he greeted all of them and said, peace be with you. The Son of Man is within you. Follow him there. Go now and preach the gospel of the kingdom. Do not lay down any rules beyond what I told you, and do not give a law like lawgivers, or you will be held to an account for the same laws.
And when he said this, he departed.
Okay. And what did they do and say?
Then they were troubled and they wept out loud. They were saying, how shall we go to the Gentiles and preach the gospel of the kingdom of the Son of Man? They did not spare him, so how can we expect them to spare us?
It's very true. So, did you have an answer for them?
Well, they stood up and he greeted them and said to his fellow believers, do not weep, don't be troubled by this, and don't waver, because his grace will be with you completely and it will protect you. And with that, instead, let us praise his greatness, because he has prepared us and made us into mature people, complete people. And so my words turned their hearts to good, and they began to discuss the words of the Savior from there.
And what did Peter say to that? What did he want from you?
Peter said to me, sister, we know that the Savior loved you more than all other women. Tell us the words of the Savior that you remember now, but we have not heard and do not know. And so I answered them and I said, I will tell you what he hid from you. And I began to speak these words to them. I said, I saw the Lord in a vision, and I said to him, Lord, I saw you have today a vision. And he answered me and he said, you will be happy that you did not waver at the sight of me. And where the mind is, there is the treasure. And I said to him, Lord, does one see visions through the soul or through the spirit? And the Savior answered and said, he sees visions through neither the soul nor the spirit. It is through the mind that is between the two. That is what sees the vision, and it is there that the vision exists.
Pages 11 through 14 are missing, and they were never found. This text and video resumes at chapter 8.
All right. Then what was the communication like between you and the Savior?
Well, we talked about everything. I told him about this vision I had, and he helped to bring clarity as to what it meant. He said, and Desire said, before I did not see you descending, but now I see you ascending. Why do you lie, since you belong to me? The soul answered and said, I saw you, but I did not see me nor recognize me. I covered you like a garment, and you did not know me. When I said this, the soul went away rejoicing. Again, it came to the third power, which is called ignorance. And the power questioned the soul, saying, where are you going? You are enslaved in wickedness. Since you are its captive and cannot judge, since I have no judgment. And the soul said, why do you judge me when I have not judged? I was captured, although I have not captured anyone. I was recognized, but I have recognized that God, the all that is in being dissolved both the earthly things and in the heavenly things, both places at once. And when the soul had overcome the third power, it ascended and saw the fourth power, which took 7 forms. And the first form is darkness. The second, desire. The third, ignorance. The fourth is the lust of death. The fifth is the dominion of the flesh. And the sixth is the empty, useless wisdom of the flesh. And the seventh is the wisdom of vengeance or anger. And these are the 7 powers of wrath. And they asked the soul, where do you come from, slayer of men? Where are you going, conqueror of space? And the soul answered and said, what has trapped me has been slain, and what has kept me caged has been overcome. My desire has been ended, and ignorance has died. Wow. In an age, I was released from the world in a symbolic image and was released from the chains of oblivion, which were only temporary, transient in this world. From this time on, I will attain the rest of the ages and the seasons of silence.
Wow, that's a pretty intense vision that you had. That's very exciting. Now, then how did all of this end with you and your brothers, the disciples?
Well, when I said this, I grew silent. And since I had shared all the Savior had told me, there wasn't anything else to say. But Andrew said to all the other believers, say what you want about all she has said, but I do not believe that the Savior said this. These teachings are very strange ideas. And Peter answered him and spoke these things. He questioned them about the Savior and asked, did he really speak privately with a woman and not openly to us? Are we to turn around and all listen to her? And did he prefer her to us? Then I sobbed and I said to Peter, my brother Peter, do you think, what do you think? Do you think that I made all of this up in my heart by myself? And then Levi said to Peter, Peter, you have always had a hot temper. And now I see you fighting with this woman like she's your enemy. And of course we weren't. And Levi said, if the Savior made her worthy, who are you to reject her? What do you think you're doing? Sure, the Savior knows her well. That is why he loved her more than us. Let us be ashamed of this and let us put on the perfect man. And let us separate from each other as he commanded and go forth and preach the gospel, not laying down any other rule or any other law beyond what the Savior told us. And then they heard this and they began to go out and proclaim and preach.
Well, that's very powerful, and I'm glad you had somebody to stand up for you. Thank you, Mary. We at J&S Biblical Productions hope to go out and proclaim and preach likewise. This is Sarah Honeydew saying good afternoon.